All right, well, let's get started, everybody. Well, welcome. My name's Chris Monahan. I'll be your MC today. Um, Glad to see everybody out there, some familiar faces as well. As you can tell, today we are 100% virtual. This is, as you know, the last couple of tugs, we've been moving toward more of a, in-person or hybrid events. We've done 2 in-person events down at the Austin Tableau office down in downtown Austin. That's been a lot of fun, but those are temporarily on hold until the beginning of the year, and then we'll reconvene. But we are 100% virtual today, so it's good to see everybody out there. As usual, I want to thank everybody that helped put this event together today. This is our TUG Advisory Council, a lot of great members. These are the folks that work every single month to put together these great events. They help with the organization of the events, lining up the speakers, lining up the happy hours, and all the other stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So thank you. Thanks to Homer, James, John, and Amy for all the work they did in putting together today's event. As we move into next year, we are looking for new members to join as well. So if you like marketing or event planning, or you like social media or spend a lot of time on Tableau Public, reach out to me. I'll put you in contact with the folks and you can join us for our TUG meetings. Our advisory board meeting meets every 2 weeks. So it's usually for 30 minutes. So not a big time commitment, but it's really important to have a lot of great input into these events. So if you like any of these, like doing networking and putting on these great events, then please reach out to me and we'll get you set up on the advisory board. So as I mentioned, we got a great event planned today. We're going to go through some, here's the agenda. We're going to go through some announcements, some high level meeting notes and comments, and just some of the upcoming events that we have planned. We also have a great speaker today, Dennis Kao, who's the associate professor at the Carleton University of Social Work. He has an awesome presentation, and if the title doesn't pique your interest, I don't know what will. It's using QGIS to create non-graphical stuff for Tableau. So GIS and non-graphical don't go together, but you will find out how it all comes full circle. And then after that, we're going to have our network breaking sessions. So for those of you that are new and haven't done that before, we have a breakout room where we're going to have a smaller discussion around some Tableau topics. And that is going to the title of our breakout room today is Ask Anyone Anything About Tableau. And Homer and I will be emceeing that room as well. So a little bit of housekeeping and announcements. So the meeting format today, I like to remind everyone, it is a live meeting. So it's virtual. I want you guys to, if you have your camera, go ahead and turn it on. We like to see your faces. Gallery view is the best in Zoom. So, but please observe, customary Zoom etiquette. So please put it on mute when you're not speaking, and turn your video off if you have other things going on as well. So we do want to make this very interactive. So participate in the chat window down below. So make comments, post links, any questions that go on. We'll go ahead and do that. We will collect all the questions, and at the end of the presentation, we'll do a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, you can send that directly, do a DM in Zoom directly to Homer, and he will collect those questions and we'll go ahead and ask those at the end. Also, I'll be posting a short survey into the chat window as well. Please take the chat. We look at these every TUG event, and it's got a questionnaire in there that just asks you a few things about how we can improve our TUG. And so please take the chat. We'd love to get your feedback from the community to help make these events better. So as far as housekeeping and general announcements, our November TUG is coming up on November 10th. So it's hard to believe that we only have 2 more months left in the year. The holidays are right around the corner. At our November TUG, Nicole Klassen is going to be doing an awesome visual presentation around data visualization. She's currently the data visualization developer at ABT Associates. So, and she's also a public ambassador too. So congratulations, Nicole. She's going to be doing an awesome presentation in November, so you don't want to miss that. And then in December, we have 2 events coming up. We have our December 8th TUG event, which will be virtual. And then we have a happy hour that we're going to be doing in person in Austin. The date and location we're still working on, but it'll probably be that that second week of December. So stay tuned and keep an eye out for that invite. All right. So with all that out of the way, I'd like to introduce you to our featured speaker today, Dennis Kao. As I mentioned, he's the associate professor at Carleton University, School of Social Work. And Dennis has about 15 years of doing statistical and GIS mapping. He first discovered Tableau actually just 2 years ago, which is hard to believe because if you've checked out his Tableau public page, it's amazing. He has some great dashboards, so I highly recommend you guys check it out. Dennis also is a Tableau public ambassador, so congratulations, Dennis. And if you guys keep up with the Tableau visit of the day, here's one that he posted recently and that he co-did with Jessica Moon, and it's awesome. So it's almost like a Where's Waldo. Can you pick him out? He's sort of right there in the middle. But you guys, as I mentioned, he's a big part of the community. Check out his Tableau public page. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Dennis.
So hello, everybody. I am calling in from Ottawa, Ontario, where I work at Carleton University as an associate professor in the School of Social Work, just like Chris mentioned. I'll introduce myself a little more fully. Let me kind of deal with sharing screen. I apologize beforehand because I'm working off of my laptop, and also I'll be working through multiple, I'll be doing Tableau, I'll also be doing QGIS, which is another software, as well as I'll be on the web browser as well. So I'll be working on multiple windows, and so I apologize beforehand as I kind of try to navigate this on my small laptop. So again, my name is Dennis. A little bit about myself. This is a picture of my family. The first year that we moved to Ottawa. I'm originally from California, Los Angeles, and I also have taught at the University of Houston. So I spent 3 years at Houston, and I love Houston. I also love Austin. We used to make it out to Austin about once a month. So I'm very happy to be here. So a little bit about myself. I've been in Ottawa since 2018. I was born and raised in California. I'm married. My wife, Kimmy, is in the field of special education. And I'm also a father of a 7-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son. I'm a social work professor. I teach courses on communities and nonprofits. And my research is focused around health equity issues impacting racial and ethnic minorities, and specifically in the aging communities. Like Chris said, I first discovered Tableau Public in November 2020, and just spent the entire pandemic trying to learn as much as I can and do as much fizzing as I can. I earned my certificate as a desktop specialist, and I have the privilege of serving right now as a Tableau Public Ambassador, and also as a member of the Instructor Advisory Council for Tableau's For Teaching initiative. So like Chris said, I've been doing GIS mapping analysis for about 15 years now. But to be honest, when I discovered Tableau 2 years ago, I really feel like it really took my work to another level. And I think you'll start to kind of see that through the presentation. I think I was doing things in the past 2 years. I've done things with GIS that I haven't done since my training. And also just thinking about the visualization and design. Tableau's really, I think, taken my map making to another level. And I'm not just saying that, but I can just look at my work and just say, wow, I can't believe like I used to map this way, and now with Tableau, with the interactivity and the design, kind of bringing in the design elements and things like that, I really feel that it's just up my game in terms of, and so now I'm trying to figure out how to integrate that into my teaching as well as my research. And I just jotted down a couple of inspirations of folks that inspired me. Wendy was some of the first maps I saw on Tableau were the ones that Wendy did for the 2020 30-day map challenge, and it blew me away. And that's kind of what brought me into Tableau. But there's several folks like Mark Reed, Naresh, and Sarah Battersby, of course, Maps Overlord, who inspire and are kind of my go-to when it comes to map making in Tableau. So I have a really simple agenda. Let me quickly just turn on my timer. I want to cover a couple of GIS basics just to make sure we're all starting in the same place, and then go into QGIS. I don't know how much experience people have with GIS, and so I just want to cover some of the basics just so in terms of the language, just so that we are just all starting at the same place, and then really take it into the key topic, which is creating things for Tableau. And you know, I kind of, the non-geographic data kind of term, I kind of made that up. But what I'm really referring to are things that aren't really geographic things, like features. So I list the ones I'm going to cover. So grids, images, random points or lines, and then shapes, things that we might use in Tableau that aren't really geographic, but I'm going to use QGIS to create them. And then the underlying theme behind that is that all of these aren't geographic features, but the key is that they're geo-referenced. That means they're tied to a space or tied to a place. So they have latitude and longitude coordinates. So then when you start mapping them in Tableau, because they're spatially referenced or geo-referenced, then you can start mapping other things on top of that. And so I think the value of that is QGIS really makes it easy to create some of these because it's specialized. It's a specialized GIS software. And so it makes it really easy to create these. And then you can just plop them in just like you would do with any other shape file or spatial file in Tableau. And so I'll give you a couple examples as we go along. And so these are the 4 types that I want to cover: grids, images, points and lines, and shapes. So let's just cover some basics about GIS. So GIS, Geographic Information Systems, is software. It's a number of different things that go into the system, the software, GPS, etc. But it's all designed to store, manipulate, analyze, and output map-based or spatial information. So it allows you to take all this information and create maps, essentially. A GIS map consists of layers, just like in Tableau. So you have different map layers, and each of them represent a specific feature. And there's really generally two types of GIS data. Vectors, so we use either points, lines, or polygons to represent the world, or rasters, which is basically a set of pixels or cells, and they're each color coded with a different or have a different value. So each cell has a different value. And so those are rasters. So an example of points could be just if you see, or vectors, you can see whenever you go to Google and you're just looking at the regular Google, not the satellite view, you see just points represent places, you see lines represent roads, and polygons representing maybe buildings or parks or things like that. So those are examples of vectors. And Google is basically is a GIS system, basically with a number of layers on top of it. When you start looking at a satellite, or when you see the weather report, that's where you start seeing rasters, where you see kind of heat trends or storms going. So you just see a series of pixels, really small, and then each cell has a different value. So QGIS is this free and open source GIS. I was trained using Esri's products, so ArcGIS, ArcMap, and then I've used ArcGIS Pro a little bit as well. But I've started more recently in the last 5 years or so, really starting to just primarily use QGIS, which is a fully functional, you can pretty much do everything you would want in GIS, mapping and analysis and spatial analysis, but it's totally free and open source, which is just, kind of blows my mind. But in terms of accessibility, when I think about, training my students, I think these are really important things, that the fact that it's free, but it's fully functional. And I'm going to turn to now the QGIS to kind of just talk about some of the window a little bit and the interface, so just so that you can get a little familiar with it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of work in QGIS. So over the course of that process, hopefully you'll become more familiar with some of the tools and things like that. So let me switch over. So this is the basic window QGIS. So here you have a windows with all the different layers. I don't have anything turned on, but for example, if I turn on this layer, you'll see this is kind of just a vector, a polygon of LA County, Los Angeles County in California. Okay. So this is the map view. This is the layer view. And then some, and you know, there's different toolbars just like any other software, and I'll be using them in a minute. But the cool thing about QGIS is that generally you can open, if any kind of spatial file, whether it's shape files, GeoJSONs, I don't even know how to pronounce that because I've never really used them. Geodatabases, which is the package used by Esri, comma separated limited files, comma limited variable CSV files. Why am I blanking on what that means? CSV files, so text files, also rasters or images, and I'll be showing you some examples of that in a minute. And then one of the cool, and for those of you who have used map layers in Tableau, I think one of the things that I really like about QGIS, because it's specialized in GIS, it's really easy to kind of bring in data, map data, maneuver data around, things like that. And so I'll show you that in a little bit. Okay. All right. And obviously you can always, you can zoom in, you can go back to the original extent, you can zoom out. If you have multiple things, you can look up things, you can select things, you can use other map layers to manipulate other map layers. And I'll show you that in a minute as well. So I'm used to QGIS, I'm used to GIS, but I think it's because it really works well. Like when I still use QGIS, even though I use Tableau quite a bit now for my mapping and visualization, I still use QGIS to manipulate shape files and things like that, and other spatial files, just because for me, it's a lot easier. All right. So the first non-geographic feature I want to present are grids. And so these are 3 examples of vises I've done in the past. The top one I'll go over a little bit more and demonstrate in QGIS is basically just a model of I don't know if for those of you, if you've ever been to California, you may be familiar with the Thomas Brother Guide, which was an old atlas book that was widely used in California and a few other states. I just wanted to kind of model this viz after that, and this is kind of how it looked like, where you have different cells that representing LA County, and then you have, obviously, these cells didn't tell you which page to eventually go to see that cell. I also created a couple other vises that have grids, and so these are rectangular or square grids. These are point grids, and then what the heck, because I created a viz with hexagon grids here, the Vancouver Island one. And the nice thing, let me go to the website really quick, because the grid, and so this is my 15-minute city, Ottawa viz, and I basically created a grid of points because I wanted to represent different, just a sample of different places within Ottawa. The cool thing about creating a grid in QGIS is because it's spatially referenced with geography, right? And so if I click on, so I join this with another file with other shape files, and if I click on any of these points, for example, hopefully it works, then because it's spatially referenced or geo-referenced, like any point, this grid actually works, like like I'm actually pointing to that geographic area, and I created buffers to represent about 1.5 kilometers, about 15 minutes around that point, and filtered, the fast food restaurants, convenience stores, etc. In that 15-minute buffer around that point, right? And so here, obviously in downtown Ottawa, there's a lot more amenities. And the idea behind a 15-minute city is it's its concept where wherever you live in a city, the ideal would be you could walk anywhere 15 minutes and have all the amenities, access to all the amenities that you need for daily life. And so this was just my way to try to, visualize that here in the city of Ottawa. And I did this just this past November's 30-day map challenge. And so that's an example of a grid that I created in QGIS. And because it's spatially referenced to actual geography, it then operates just like any other shapefile, right? So this would be a point shapefile. The squares would be polygons, and then same with the hexagons. So I'm going to just demo this quickly in QGIS. I try to include some kind of important screenshots. If you take a look at the next couple slides, I try to include screenshots that hopefully help you reference this later on. I think Chris may have plopped in the slide deck, which I did in Tableau Public, as well as the data if you're interested in downloading QGIS to work with the software. Okay, so I'm going to turn to QGIS now. So I actually want to start from scratch because I want to kind of show you how fluid or how smooth it is to add and put in data. And so for this, I wanted to, and so I'm going to recreate this grid over the LA County boundaries. Okay, and so what I'm going to do now is first I'm going to upload the county boundaries for LA County, which are right here. Okay, and so this is the file here. I'm not going to worry about anything else. I'm just going to add. Okay, and of course it doesn't show up. Oh, because this is turned off. Okay. Let me operate out of this group. Okay. So this is the file I just added. Now let me add, just for kind of demonstration purposes, let me add the roads really quick. So unlike Tableau, it took me a little bit to kind of figure out what's kind of going on in Tableau and how to add files and join them and things like that. So I'm literally in QGIS, and this is how GIS software generally works. I'm literally just opening up these files, and it's automatically projecting these with the right projection system. I'm not going to go into projections in this presentation because that could be an entire year worth of courses. But it's automatically projecting it in the right place on the Earth's surface. And you'll see these are the files that I just added on. I didn't have to worry about joining them because they are spatial files and QGIS can recognize them. They basically map them on top of each other, just like one might expect. Okay. And then obviously you can zoom in closer, zoom out, etc. So I'm not going to look at Catalina Island. I'm just going to look at kind of the main part of LA County here. So what I want to do for this, I want to create a grid, right? And QGIS, what you'll find is, I was just having a conversation with somebody and they were excited about the presentation because they wanted to see, kind of what I do with maps and stuff like that. But, generally, all this stuff is really easy. And QGIS has a number of tools that allows you to kind of create these things fairly easy and save them as shapefiles, which then you can upload to Tableau. So for this, I'm going to create a grid. And there's a couple ways to get at creating a grid. So under vector research tools, there's this function called create grids, or in the processing toolbox, which has all the tools. And I put it here for my purposes, but usually it's kind of on the right-hand side. You can also type in grid and then look for it here. And it's the same thing here. Okay. So I'm going to create a grid. And then just kind of walking through this. So you can create a number of different types of grid: points, lines, rectangles, diamonds, hexagons. So for this purposes, let me do the rectangle. And the grid extent is, what are you going to use? How big the grid do you want? What reference are you going to use in terms of establishing the size? And in this case, I want to calculate that based on the LA County boundaries. Okay, and it automatically creates so these are the coordinates that are going to be basically the corners of the grid. And then for my purposes, kilometers, let's just create 5-kilometer grids. This is going to be a little smaller than what's shown in this slide. Right. In terms of projection, generally Tableau only uses Mercator. And so this is the projection that you would use, okay, the pseudo Mercator. And that's the one that Mapbox also uses as well. So if you run this, okay, so that was too small, right? These grids. So let me do a little bit bigger. I should have done what I did for the actual slides. Let me redo that. But you'll notice right off the bat, it plopped the grid. Now, if we zoom in a little bit, hopefully, yeah, that's way too small. Maybe I didn't change something. Sorry about that. Let me remove this. Let me redo this again. Oh, I know what I did. So my bad. Okay. So let's redo this. Of course, during, as much as I practice this, it's during the actual presentation where I mess up. Okay, I forgot to change this to kilometers, I think. All right, so let's go 10, which is the size that I use for the slides. So 10 kilometer by 10 kilometers. The projection's correct. So let's run it now. Okay. So let's move this down here. And so you'll notice right off the bat, it creates a grid. And I can in GIS language, the color and the symbol, it's all called symbology. So let me change the symbology. So I'm going to change this to, take away the color, but leave the grid. So you'll notice, okay, so automatically it creates a grid, okay? And then what you can do for any of these is you can save it to make permanent. So what it did was, you'll notice it created like a temporary file. So in order to save it, you can make it either select make permanent or save the features as. And then I'm going to save it as a shapefile. Let's put it in. So I already have a grid here, but let's call this grid 1. Okay, and so I just saved it. And so what this is basically what you're doing is you're creating a grid, a non-geographic feature, but it's because you created it in QGIS, it's spatially referenced, right? It's going to, wherever you take this map, right? These shapefiles, if you have this county boundary and you have this grid, wherever you take this, another GIS software, or you import it, you do it in, you create it in Tableau, this grid is going to be in this position because it's tied to this geography, right? And so what I ended up doing for the Thomas Brothers guide is I clipped the grid a little bit so that it's the shape of LA County, the boundaries. So let me show you that really quick. There's a function where I'm going to use the LA County boundaries, and I'm going to clip it based on, no, I'm sorry. That's another function. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select by location all the things that are in the grid, all the features that are in the grid that intersect with the LA County boundaries. Okay. Did it do it? No, it didn't. Of course, nothing works when I am trying to present this stuff. Grid.
That's how all my demos go. Don't worry.
I even practiced this. What's going
I
on?
know.
Sorry
Never
about
fails.
that, guys. Okay. There's probably something I have to do, so I apologize that it's not working now. But what you can do is you can select all the cells that intersect with the LA County boundary, this polygon, and then you can export the selected feature and create a separate grid shapefile that just has those cells, right? And if it was working, I have to, I'd probably have to dig in a little bit to try to figure out what's going on, but that's what I ended up doing here, okay? And that's why you don't have the square, all the cells. Some of these cells are missing because I select the cells that kind of conform or intersect with the LA County boundary, okay? And then created a new file, a new shapefile just with those cells, okay? And that's what this is, okay? And so you'll notice, so the map underneath is just basically a custom map box style map that I created just for this viz. And so the background is the map box map. And the only shapefile that I have in this worksheet is that grid. And so once I brought in the grid file and plopped it onto the map, you'll notice that it's exactly where I expect it to be, because it's spatially or geo-referenced to that geography. Okay, and what that allows you to do is, so I created another smaller map that's a little more detailed. And so what I ended up doing is creating this viz that kind of simulates the old Thomas Brothers guide, where you can select different cells. And this is just this is a simple filter that I use, where you collect different cells, select different cells, and then this map kind of shows the different pages, like so. And so, obviously, for something like this, this might not be, this might not come up at work, but I think there's might be some value in being able to create something like a grid for various visits that you might do, especially when it involves maps. Just checking to see how I'm doing. Wow, time flies, huh? I'm sorry. I just spent all my time on that one. Okay.
No, you're good.
All right. So really quickly, I want to show just a couple more things. So images. So when you plop an image, let me delete these. When you plop an image into QGIS, you plop it as a raster. So here, this is a selection here, and you can select any image and plop it in. And what happens is it automatically goes to, so let me open these. Okay, so this is an old map, redline map. So this project was from the public policy viz, looking at redlining in Pittsburgh. This was an old map from the mid 1900s. Looking, and the red are those areas that were considered hazardous in terms of mortgage lending risks, right? And so this has had an impact on the way the community is situated today, right? And so this was an old map, and I wanted to use this old map to create this map, this viz. And so I geo-referenced, I'm going to go through this process really quick. I geo-referenced the old map, and then which allowed me just to plop other shapefiles of Pittsburgh right on top of it as well. Okay, I think, and you might be able to do this in Tableau, but I think it makes it so much easier here. So you'll notice that when you let's see. So when you bring in an image, it actually gets automatically positioned at the 0, 0. So at this very corner would be the 0, 0 mark, the null position, right? Somewhere off the coast of Africa, right? Which is what we don't want, right? So we want to georeference this so that it's situated on top of Pittsburgh, exactly where you want it, right? And so there's a tool called the georeferencer that allows you to do exactly that. And so I'm going to pull in the image again. So this is the georeferencer tool. And so what it allows you to do is use another maybe shapefile or map as a reference point. So this is a shapefile of the actual zoning zones that you just saw in the old map, but an actual shapefile. So this is on top of Pittsburgh where it's supposed to be. I'm going to use this map as the reference point. And so what the georeferencer tool allows you to do is to add points. So I'm going to create, let's say, and it takes sometimes a few points, but I'm going to create a couple points just to speed up. So when I click on this point right here, I'm going to use that and link it to the same point on the shapefile here. Okay, and you'll notice the geographic coordinates are here. When I push OK, it gets added here. There's a red spot right there, and there's a red spot right there, right? And so what those points represent now are anchors. And so the georeferencer tool will then basically adjust, reposition the image using those points as anchors. Obviously, the more anchor points, what they call ground control points, the more the better. But let me just do 2 just for the sake of this. And so let me create one right around here. This point here, okay. All right, and so that's that. Let me set up the, I just go with that kind of the typical default. I didn't really change anything. And then let me run it and see what happens. Oh, we need one more. Okay, so that we need one more. Let me put one in the middle. There, okay. So let's see if that works. So now that it's running its algorithm, I don't really know. And so now we get a new modified map. Let me put this underneath the actual shapefile. But now it looks pretty good, right? There's some parts where it could have been better, right? Here and here. But now the image is actually georeferenced on top of Pittsburgh where it's supposed to be. And obviously, if you added more points, it would be a closer fit. But that's one way to georeference like any image. Like you can georeference any image if you want it. Okay. And so that's what I did here to create this viz. So the old map, and on top of that was the shape files as well as the locations of the capital investment projects. So I kind of go through that process here. And what you end up doing, what you have to do with that, you save that as a raster, you upload it and upload it as a tile set to Mapbox. You create a custom map, and then you use that map as the background. So I have a worksheet here with the shape files on top of the old map, and you'll notice that the map layer that I use was the Pittsburgh redlining map, which is a custom style that I created in Mapbox. All right. Okay. Chris or Homer, I think, am I okay with time or?
Yeah, you're good with time. Yeah, Are
you sure?
Take your time. Don't worry. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
We can shift. Don't worry.
Oh no, I don't want you to shift though. I want to.
No,
sure.
You're fine. You're fine. Don't worry.
Really? Are you sure?
Yep. Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
Okay, because my timer went off like 2 minutes ago. So.
Time flies.
Time flies when you're having fun, right? Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So for this viz, I actually mapped out the routes as well as the places of the 12 different versions of the Candy Land board. And so this is obviously something I would never do in my work or my research or teaching. but I thought it would be a fun project to do. And the theme, it was for Iron Quest, and the theme was games. And so I thought, oh, this might be kind of cool. And so this is an example of something that I rarely get to do, is to draw my own shapefiles, like create new shapefiles from scratch, right? And so you know, I found the 12 different boards from Candyland Wiki, download them, upload them, pull them into QGIS, and basically drew lines to represent the routes, and then points for the various locations. Okay, and it kind of looked, and it ended up. So I created 2 shapefiles that kind of look like this. Okay, now obviously in your work, you're probably not going to draw, you know, routes for Candyland, the Candyland board game, but there might be opportunities where you have to draw your own shapefiles, and then pull them into Tableau to visualize. And again, QGIS kind of makes that really easy to do. So I'm going to show you really quickly lines and points. So what you need to do in this case is create a new shapefile here. And I'm just going to call this lines. And then define it as lines. And then you can add other fields, like, you know, if there are other attributes that or characteristics that you want to add to each line that you draw, you can do that as well. But I'm just going to go with the ID really quick. Okay. And now, as soon as you create this, you can click on edit here. This is the toggle edit on and off. So automatically some of these things turn on, right? So in this case, I'm going to click on this, which is add line feature. And all you have to do when you click on that, you'll notice that the cursor turned into this little target or viewer type of cursor. All you have to do, and what I ended up doing was clicking on each box. And so I don't know if you see that. Do you all see that line? So I clicked on the first box, and then now it starts creating a line. And it won't stop the line until I right click. So I can just keep on going for a little bit. Let me just go for a little bit here. Okay, let me go to here, okay? And then when I right click, it ends the line, and then I can call this whatever. So let me just call this number 1, okay? Now, if I turn off the board, you'll see that line appears here, right? Okay, so that's how you create a line, and you can add as many lines as you want. So so what ended up doing is creating a line for the main track, and then I created a separate line feature for the shortcuts. So let's do another line for the shortcuts. Okay, and then let's call this 2. Okay, and so again, you'll see now I created these lines really quick. And again, this is a shapefile, right? That is geographically now this board, obviously there's no place that exists that's called Candyland or looks like this in Candyland. So I just left this at the 0, mark position, right? But when I map the lines and then places based on this board, right? What ends up happening is they are geographically referenced to this position. And so when you plot it into Tableau and map it out, they're going to basically, show up exactly where you expect them to show, right? I'm going to do the same process really quickly for points, just to show you. So same process, create a new shapefile. Let's call this points. Make sure it's here. Yep. Okay, and then these are points. And then again, I'm not going to add any attributes. Whoops, sorry. What happened? Oh, okay, my bad. So I have to do it through here. All right. So again, there's another shapefile here, new shapefile here. Now, when I toggle the editing, you'll notice that now, like so when it's on, when you've selected points, it's going to have this add point feature. When you select lines, it changes to add line features. And then I'm going to save these just because we just finished those. Okay, so I'm just going to add some points. And so for this, I just looked at the various points. So peppermint stick, forest, and of course, you might need the names for these. The ice cream floats, 2, and then the molasses swamp, 3. Okay, and so those are 3 points that I just created. You'll notice that the 3 points are situated right here. I can add the lines. You'll see that the lines are here as well. And then ultimately, what I ended up doing for each of the 12 versions was create something like this, 2 shapefiles that have the lines and the points. And then I plop that into in Tableau, and that's how I ended up visualizing that. Okay. Now you can do the same really quickly. The next thing was shapes. So now you can also do shapes as well. If you create a new shapefile in a rectangle, and in this case, what I ended up doing was I wanted to create an extent, a locator map, and geographically accurate extent indicator in QGIS and in Tableau. But Tableau really doesn't have a way to do that. It's always approximate. And so if you created a rectangle in QGIS that's geographically referenced, then you can use that as a tool to create the locator map in Tableau. And so let me just quickly show you that really quick. And so I ended up creating this rectangle. So when you select the actual, where'd it go? Rectangles. Sorry, I'm not as organized because I'm trying to speed through these really quick. Oh, here's the rectangle. If you edit it, you'll notice that now, because it's a polygon, there's a number of different polygon choices. So this would be a circle, ellipse, and in this case, I did add a rectangle, right? And you can add as many rectangles as you want to this shapefile, and then you save it. And then I used it to create. So this is the shapefile. This would be the main map, but I wanted to create a geographically accurate locator map. So there's a smaller map that shows you where in LA County is the bigger map showing. And so because this is the same rectangle, because it's georeferenced, it's in its exact location, it's going to be the same place here as it is here. And then you can use this to basically zoom into that exact position. So use the rectangle here, obviously in the dashboard. I have a blank dashboard where I was going to do that, but I don't have any time. Okay, and that's it. Hopefully that was helpful. I'm open to any question. I'm so sorry for going longer than expected.
No, that's perfect. I would have just had to talk and do some tap dancing anyway to fill time. So it's perfect. That was an awesome presentation. There were a lot of advanced techniques there. I guess before we open the floor to questions, I had one. Could you show sort of, for those that are new to maybe mapping in Tableau, can you show sort of how you integrated or how you just pulled in some of the shape files or did that in Tableau? Some people are sort of new to that. Yeah.
Okay, let me, should I share? I need to share my screen again, right? Yeah. So for those who are wondering, there's a lot more, so Sarah Battersby and then Mark Reed have done a lot of writing on working with spatial files in Tableau. And so they've been kind of my reference. Like when I tried to do some of this, first started doing this, I was so confused. Like I was like, wait, what do I have to do to the spatial files in order to get this into Tableau? So in Tableau, you have to join them, which is kind of an interesting. So let me see if I can show you an example. So maybe I'll just create a new sheet, and then I turned off everything because, okay. So when you add data, generally you want to add spatial files. So I'm going to pull in maybe a couple files to kind of show you how I do it. And this is a technique I learned from Mark Reed. And it seems to work in most cases. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to try to pull in a couple of things. I'm going to pull in this grid, and then as well as the LA County boundaries. Okay, so I'm going to click on those. And so in Tableau, I think what you have to do is you have to be able to join all these tables together, which gets a little complicated. So in QGIS, I don't know if you noticed, you can plop in all these files, and if they're, and the software will almost automatically position them exactly where you want them, right? And you can just plop and then just multiple, hundreds of layers on top of each other, and as long as they're, good data, they'll show up on the map. Here, I think in Tableau, what I do is I usually join them. So this is the county boundaries, and then let me add the grid. And because these are both spatial files, Tableau will automatically recognize them as geographic spatial files. And what you kind of so it has a geography, it'll recognize the geometry, in this file. Usually and then intersect would be the way to go in this case. And then I usually just select, I learned to just select full outer, so all the data is there. Okay, and then when I go to the sheets, let's see. So the geometry, so here's the county file. So it's a great way to also, so in Tableau, it's kind of difficult if you use Mapbox only to isolate a specific county, for example, or a place. So in this case, I have a shapefile, and I can turn off, the map layers, just turn them all off. And I'm only interested in LA County, and I have this map here, right? Like so. And then I'm going to add the grid, which is right here, as another layer, and there's the grid right there. Cool. Now, because the grid is georeferenced, like I said, the kind of the running theme, it's positioned exactly right on top of LA County as expected.
Now we did have one question that I think maybe you answered it during your presentation, but could you make it so that the grids all fall within the borders of the map? Is that where you went and manually clipped it? But QGIS can't automatically do that, can it?
No, it won't do that automatically because it'll create the square grid, right?
Right.
But what you can do, and I guess this is what I was trying to get to. Let me go here again. Because I don't have the grid on. Where's the grid? Where's the grid that I created? Sorry, I was going so fast. I had this all organized, and then so I apologize that nothing's showing up as expected.
Bottom one? Yeah. Maybe we got rid of it.
Yeah, I might have gotten rid of it. Let me just upload it really quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the grid. And then, so what you can do is use this. So you can select any of these features one by one or by a value or an attribute. You can also select by location. So I'm going to click on the select location. So from the grid, I want all the elements from that grid that intersect with the LA County border. All right. And it's going to create a new selection. If I run this, right? Now you'll notice all the ones that show up in yellow, those are the ones that have been selected because they intersected with the polygon, right? And then what I can do is basically copy those features and then paste as a new, let's do a temporary scratch one, call it pasted. And so now we have a grid that just kind of conforms to the LA County boundaries.
That's really cool. Really cool. Awesome. Homer, do we have any other questions from the audience there?
Yeah, there was another follow-up question to the one that Rod Aguilar asked, and that was, could you use the shape, like for instance, LA County, as a template, like a cookie cutter almost, where you could then cut out another image and have it fit exactly within the boundaries of that first image?
Oh, yeah, I think I know what I think they want.
Yeah, so let's say you wanted to have a map of the United States with all the outlines of the states, and inside each state you want to have the state flag. So you want to be able to use that state outline as a cookie cutter to capture an image of their flag and have it filled in and centered in each of those states.
That totally makes sense. I think the initial answer, I think, is yes, as long as the picture is, so let's say you added a picture, you would have to georeference that picture so that it conforms to each state, right? The location of each state, using the method that I showed for the redlining map. And then you can, I think you can clip. Yeah, I think so. Like as long as you can overlay it on top of each other, you can use one layer to manipulate the other layer, including clip them. Yeah. So theoretically, yes.
Super.
Like I've never done it in practice, but I think theoretically it's possible.
All right. So a couple more questions from Ryan Harrison. Is there a way to use 3 or more shapefiles in one Tableau worksheet?
Yes, there are. So for example, I mean, I think the challenge is more, how do you figure out how to get the data connected to the Tableau? Like generally, I think if you do the method, you can add as many shapefiles as you want, and you can basically just add shapefiles on top of each other. So in this case, there's 2. If I wanted to add more, you could. I just haven't, I'm not set up to do that. But so for example, if I wanted to add another grid to do something, you can add another grid, right? Just in this example, I don't have anything else. Like if you wanted to add, like you can add as many grids. So you'll notice I have 4 map layers now. Like, so you can add as many map layers as you want, I believe.
Very cool.
Okay. Question here from Bobby Lee Pitts. Did you number the squares in either Tableau or QGIS?
That's a good question. Oh, good question. So the problem, so let me turn on this grid and go to the, okay, so this was a challenge for me. So you'll notice that, so this is the attribute table that represents the grid. And you'll notice when I select ID number 1, that's the first, that first one will be selected and so forth. Now you'll notice that they go down. So 1, 2, 3, 4 down in columns, right? Now, when I clipped it like this, now this this is no longer number one. This is some other number, right? Let's see, what number would this be? So this is, so they're no longer kind of in order anymore. So I ended up manually, because I wanted the cells to be numbered by rows, but there's probably a way, like if I spend a little time, I could probably figure out a way to do that. But for this, I ended up just manually, and it took a little while, but that was just, I think my own fault, because I didn't think through or think ahead on how to do that. But that was just my fault.
Did you do it in GIS or?
I did it here in GIS. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool.
Okay.
Very cool.
All right. Question here from Michael Becker. Could you use an architectural drawing to create a custom map of a warehouse?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I think that's a great, I mean, you can do that in Tableau, right? But I do think in the same way that I did, I mean, this might be a good example, right? The Candyland, right? So if you imagine the architectural blueprint, right, is, sorry, let me zoom to this picture. So if the blueprint or whatever image is the one you download here, right? No, that's not it. What am I doing? All my files are messed up, so sorry. Okay, so the Candyland, right? So if you imagine, why is this showing up like this? Sorry, let me just say, I was trying to demonstrate, but so if you imagine the Candyland example where I uploaded the image onto QGIS, right? And then it's spatially referenced with the top left corner at 0, 0 coordinate system. You can draw the entire blueprint, with polygons, with lines, etc. And then it's georeferenced all together. And then you can you can save those as shapefiles and open up in Tableau and then visualize them in Tableau, definitely. Okay. So in the same way that I did the Candyland one, I think it's the same principle, I think.
That's really cool. I was wondering, like thinking of other use cases, maybe
of course,
pertaining to retail, for example. So like if you had a store, you're thinking about traffic patterns in a store, would that be sort of the same principle? You'd use shapes or polygons or something like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I mean, I didn't, like I said, some of the stuff I don't do in my regular GIS kind of mapping, which, I tend to map more like kind of in the more social science kind of area. But I think, I mean, I don't know if you noticed, QGIS, because it specializes in GIS or spatial files, like anything you can plop onto a map, it makes it really easy to draw things, to reference things, to manipulate things based on other shape files. So, I'm not as experienced in Tableau because I think it's also doable in Tableau. I just haven't done it really in Tableau. But I think it seems, I mean, I thought, I was able to kind of create those lines pretty easily just now. And so hopefully you were able to kind of sense that how easy it was, and then to create a file that automatically that then you can plop into Tableau to visualize.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I think you showed the power of QGIS, and I know that some other use cases I heard, for example, if you think retail, like product placement on a shelf, if you could highlight different areas on a shelf, what sells better and things like that. That's another interesting one that maybe you could use QGIS for. All right. Well, one last question for you before we let you go. I guess what are some of the popular sites that maybe you pull, like maybe some publicly available shape files, or maybe some Tableau? You mentioned Mark and a couple other folks that you follow. Like, where do you get your info online?
So a lot of cities now, I'm not sure if there was some initiative, but a lot of cities now have open data portals where you go and then the city plops data into this portal for use. And there's a lot of GIS data is there. A lot of the US-based kind of geographies obviously comes from the Census Bureau, and it's totally free. If you go to the US, they're called Tiger files. But I think, so there's a lot of places like that where I might get my GIS data. And there's other places if you need more global data. OpenStreetMap is another place where it's kind of like what's the best way? A wiki map that everybody, people just contribute to, and they provide their data for free, right? And so their data is really accurate and pretty current as well. And I've downloaded some of their data, and it's really good. So there are a number of different places like that.
Cool. All right. Well, awesome. Well, sorry to keep you late, but this was very interesting.
No, I'm so sorry.
I think all of it. No,
I'm so sorry for going way too long.
There's a lot of material to cover. So it was an awesome presentation. And I'll be, for everyone that's on the call, I'll be sending out links to those files that Dennis referenced again. So Dennis, thank you again for all your time. It was a very interesting presentation. Everyone give Dennis a sort of a virtual round of applause here. So
thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. Well, let's go ahead and I know we have a little bit of time here. We have about 20 minutes left. We're going to go ahead and shift gears a little bit. For those of you that are new, this is we do a little breakout room. So we're going to do something called Ask Anyone Anything, and this is any topic around Tableau. It could be around best practices with Tableau Desktop. It could be around Tableau Server. It could be around training and adoption or whatnot. So we're going to go ahead and open up a breakout room right now. And down at the bottom, you'll see a little link or button called Breakout Rooms. And we'll want you guys to all go ahead and select the breakout room. There's only one. Go ahead and join that. And then we'll all see you there. For those that can't join us today, tune in next time, next month on November 10th when we have our next tug event. So I'm going to go ahead and open it now. And it should be open, and everybody can go ahead and select the room that they want to join. Down there at the bottom, Ask Anyone Anything. So we'll give everyone just a few minutes to join there, and I will see you all there. Thank you very much.